Welcome to this tour of the Washington, D.C. Union Station. Your host is Ann Brannon, and we're going to be focusing on the station's classical roots. The Union Station in Washington was built after the two major railroads that were running through the capital agreed to build a station together. This was a project that had major impact on the National Mall and the design of the monuments that were built there for some time to come. It was designed by Daniel Burnham, a Chicago architect who was at that time about 55 and already well known for his neoclassical designs, including his work on the National Mall. Building the Union Station gave him a chance to pin down that design. In arts and sculpture and architecture, the American Renaissance period pretty much runs from the American Centennial to World War I and it manifests the belief that the United States was heir to the virtues of the classic era, especially democracy from Greece and law from Rome. And that belief intersected nicely with the belief in America's manifest destiny, which was the idea that these virtues, by right, were to be spread out across the continent and various other places by Americans whenever they got the chance. And the railroad naturally exemplified this. And you can see here in this iconic painting of Progress from 1872 the importance of the railway. There they are, railroads on the right-hand side, along with the stagecoach and the covered wagons and people just kind of walking and on horses, all of them moving off over toward the left. The hub of railroads then in the federal city was a perfect place to create on as large a scale as possible a vision of America's classic ancestry and its current obsession with expansion and progress. In order to do this, Burnham merged designs from two giant Roman public monuments. The most obvious is the one that you see when you get there. His interpretation of the Arch of Constantine. And there you can see on the left the imposing Union Station entrance. It's way larger than you need in order to get people inside. And the likewise imposing Arch of Constantine. Both present three arches with statues above. Both are built so that the citizenry has to pass through them regularly, thereby impressing on them the might of the government. And like Burnham, Constantine was building both for the present and for posterity, and both buildings also make it clear that present might and power are connected to past glories. It's the use of auctoritas, the invocation of authority, to give current projects legitimacy. In place of Constantine's inherited Dacian statues, which you can see on the right, those are statues inherited from Trajan, Burnham commissioned 6 sculptures representing the progress of railroading. Their classical figures brought forth into modern times, clearly connecting the two time periods, though they have morphed somewhat. Thales represents electricity, which was not unknown to the Greeks and Romans, but it was not a major component of their technology. And so their placement above the arches means most clearly that they are overseeing the enterprise. Their backs are to the actual railroad lines. They're facing out toward the citizens who are coming in to use the progressive railroads. But because they are also connected to the Dacian figures that Constantine put over his arches, which represented not only a subjugated people, but a subjugated people that had brought a great deal of plunder to the empire, the progress of railroading also can be seen as a harnessed past, demigods bringing plunder in homage to America. After entering through the triumphal Arch of Progress, the citizens then find themselves in the Grand Concourse, which is built on the design of the Baths of Diocletian. There were other large Roman buildings that could have been used as models for this purpose. The advantage of the baths lie in that long, wide, barrel-vaulted arcade, which gives both a large space for the people waiting for trains and a long space that you can use to have the train tracks converge. It also has the feel of the Roman baths in its public and varied nature. The long axis of the arcades gives not only spacious room for crowds, but easily access to business. In both cases, the buildings are easily gotten into, easily used. They're full of useful and amusing things. But it's also true that in both cases they are impressive and monumental, making it clear to the citizens how lucky and how graced they are to be part of the empire. Burnham so carefully followed Vitruvius's principles that even though he merged two disparate building plans, his work is harmonious. If there's any place where he fell short of the principles, it would be in economy. Union Station was an expensive building, and he put gold leaf in the ceiling recesses. It's attractive. It really works. There's that lovely shine up there. But it was expensive to begin with, and it has since been redone. The National Trust for Historic Preservation had to get a $350,000 grant to fix the ceiling with 23 karat 18 gram weight gold, which is supposed to last another 100 years. Since the building was built, it's had some difficulties and has been through some changes. In 1953, an overnight train from Boston crashed into the station and made it nearly all the way to the Great Hall before the floor collapsed and it landed in the basement. Nobody died. Everything got fixed. The plaster ceiling on the eastern wing collapsed in 1981, and for those repairs and others, the station was closed from 1981 to 1988, and it has since been remodeled. Amtrak still operates from there and has a presence, but this is more of a retail complex now than a train station because the progress of railroads ceased.